Hello and welcome back to the channel. I am Nash Jordan, your host and mentor, coming to you with another video. Today we have another viewer email. It's an inquiry on freedom and life abroad. It says, "Hi Nash. I hope this email finds you." You found me. I'm a dedicated reader and viewer of your blog and have been particularly intrigued by your thoughts on freedom and life abroad. I would love to hear more about your perspective on how living in different cultures impacts one's sense of freedom and personal growth. Could you share your insights or perhaps write a post addressing this fascinating topic? Best regards and thanks. Viewer, reader. Okay, freedom. Freedom, culture, my thoughts. Now, freedom is a very big, broad subject, right? Because everyone's freedom is different around the world. I mean, we're talking about different countries, different cities, different cultures, different families. You might even have your own personal culture or your own friend culture. Now, freedom. I want you to make sure that you try to always maximize your freedom. Now, let me be clear. This does not mean doing whatever you want to do or breaking the law or doing anything like that. But I mean, whatever brings you stuff like the most amount of happiness, joy, the most amount of emotional well-being, financial stability. Maximize these different levels in your life, and together you'll be able to uplift your freedom. Now, of course, some of you have been watching me from different channels, blogs, networks over the many years. And you would know that I have been personally on a journey of freedom, trying to find the city, the country that fits me the best, right? You know, I was having a hard time when I was in America, in the USA, the greatest country in the world. So they say. Now, I was having a hard time meshing my personal culture with the culture of the local people. I'm talking about in America, the local people, as well as even with work culture. And on top of that, even family culture, my personal culture, my culture of my work, family, and, local friend circle, they were not meshing. You would think these things would always mesh, but as the years went on, as time changes, things happen. We grow apart. We sometimes become more enlightened, more involved in different hobbies, or we might have a relationship. We might decide to pivot and take a complete 180 and choose another career. We might decide that our current living situation isn't the best for us, so we decide to change apartments, change housing communities to maximize your freedom. Now, what I had to internalize and had to resolve myself into being was that as you go on in life, you have to realize that not everyone is going to be on your side. Not everyone is going to always stay in your corner. I'm not necessarily saying that you'll have a bunch of enemies, but you will move apart from a lot of people. Here's an example. Here's an example, I knew a guy. He would talk about how he was invested in his business. He had a good business going for him. And at one point, he was telling me about his life before he met his wife, which is also another different aspect of freedoms, right? He was saying that how before he met his wife, who is now, for the most part, on the same page and mentality as a whole as him, his relationships wasn't good. They weren't good. They weren't good at all. Not that he was a bad person, not that the women were bad people. It's just that this particular story, he told me about a young lady who had spent most of her life living on the same block and the same little small area, the same street, her entire life. And at this point, I think they were in their 20s. Imagine that. Imagine you're in your 20s and you've pretty much only seen this one block. And for me, as someone who's traveled my whole life, that's almost unheard of, unreal, right? Of course, you would leave to go to things like maybe a supermarket or school, but those are pretty much there and back, very quick, and usually to the same spots. Now, this familiarity, this high amount of comfort on her block stopped her from having the most amount of freedom as she could have had. And he realized that by choosing her at the time, he would be limiting himself. And in terms of where he wanted to go, where he wanted to live, how he wanted to do his perspective, his future business at the time that he was starting, it would limit him. Because, we almost have a saying, small town mindset. People get trapped in these circles. They get trapped in these ways and they don't even question them no more. They've always done the same thing for the past 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. They don't want to leave. They don't want to explore. They don't want to live their best life. So by doing this, this affects them and those around them. How can it affect you? Is the question. Now, if you come across a person like this, maybe they're your neighbor, maybe they're a coworker, maybe they're a friend of yours that you're realizing that is somehow trapped in these circles, these small little nodes of, familiarity. It can impact you by having them constantly question you. Always question you. Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do that? Why are you interested in learning? Why are you interested in exploring the mountains? Why do you want to see another state? Why do you want to go to another country? Why, what, how? How can you afford this? What are you doing? Where did you say you went? That's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. You should be doing what we're doing. Everyone in our town have always done it this way. We've always made this amount of money. And you should too. Some people take it a step further than that and will begin to pull you down. We call it crabs in a barrel, right? They'll pull you down. Oh, I see you trying to make big money in your business. I see you are so successful in your family. I see you are so smart. I see you are maybe talented at playing the piano or maybe going to a new university. They will try to pull you back. Don't let them do this. Don't let them stop you from being great. Okay? You will constantly come across people like this. Now, I met someone recently, and I was talking about how I was interested in maybe going to another city, and maybe a year changing another city, because why not? It's good to see new areas, new people, new places, especially if people support you. Like in my case, my job will support me to live and work in other cities, and I can work for the same company. Cool. But you know what this person told me? They said, you go to that city, it's okay. I don't think we'll ever talk again. Which is a possibility, right? This is being realistic. Because many people move away. You can move to a neighborhood 30 minutes away, and you will lose people completely. Like, we forget how many of our relationships are built on the paths that we're walking, the paths that we're crossing at the current moment. Now, you want to make sure that you maximize your freedom and your potential and your personal growth by doing what's good for you, what's good for your family, what's good for your children if you have any, right? If you think that it's good to live in, on the farm because it'll improve your health, fresh air, clean water, go back and live on the farm, If you think that living in a big city will help your networking opportunities and maximize your freedom, go for it. Why not? Why not? The thing about freedom is that you never realize how much freedom you really have until you look back on it, until you see other people, right? Freedom is a funny thing. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing. Now, what people like to do, they like to go to these countries around the world and try to maximize their cost of living. They try to maximize their buying potential. Maybe you can buy more in the grocery in different areas. They want to maximize their health, right? You want to live better. One of the reasons why I love a place like Thailand and Malaysia and even Japan, right, is that you can go to these countries and believe it or not, the healthcare is through the roof, man. Some of these buildings look like hotels. With a full catered buffet and massage services. And some of the areas are almost empty or have very little people so they can better work one-on-one with you. Instead of having to worry about 100 people in the waiting room, 50 people in the waiting room, they only have 10. Or maybe you go there at 3 p.m. in the afternoon and there's only 2 people there. You and the other person that's already in the office, finishing up. Imagine that, right? I met a guy. And I'll tell the story another time in another video, but the synopsis of his story was that he was a German man who was an international businessman, an international traveler. He would travel around the world for business. He told me he lives in Africa. He imports his goods from Germany to Africa. A German white man. And he goes to Thailand for medical care with him and his wife. Imagine that, a guy from Germany living in Africa who goes to Thailand for medical care, maximizing his freedom and potential. He probably spoke to me for about an hour just telling me all these amazing things, which I'll tell you in another video. So hopefully this helped you understand freedom and the perspective of many people, and even yourself. So until next time, I am Nash Jordan. Peace.